After our obliterating attack in the fourth and last corner, we have lost 1000 walls and over 2000 bots during our assault. Well, it's a small sacrifice for a man, a giant sacrifice for bot kind. We also used up only 8k artillery shells so far. I may have overestimated the 100k shell requirement, and indeed we saw many cases of multiple nests and worms succumbing simultaneously to a single shell. Nevertheless, we will stick to our plan and keep up artillery shell production at full speed. After the train has reloaded, it arrives back in the fourth corner and we can explore the final section of Still Invisible map. After all that corner carnage, we will start cleaning up the straight sections by assigning some temporary train stops to the artillery train. Before we sprinkle some pairs of land-based artillery turrets along the wall to keep the cleaned up sections sparkly clean. Actually, maybe we should have waited with the land-based artillery turrets until the train was fully done with its magic. Instead of heavy bulk attacks, we are now tickling the biters with a slow trickle of artillery fire across the whole map simultaneously, causing revenge attacks everywhere at the same time. Let's hope our wall stands up and our bots won't be overloaded with repair tasks. How to not die to trains in Factorio. Just ride the spider. Well, despite our tactical error, the walls did hold, and the train is now working on its final assault on the biters. At least for now, for this stage of the game. With all those biter bases gone, let me introduce you to another game mechanism which can generate new terrain with the accompanying biter bases. Yep, it's pollution. As you can see, the pollution is quickly spreading across the cleared map, despite all the forest we tried to keep around. Especially around the heavily polluted green steel outpost, the pollution has gone full circle, and it has even started to seep through the small biter hole on the lake. This is unfortunate news, as we can't allow the pollution to spread off the explored map. Once that happens, the pollution will start generating new chunks again, and we'll be back to square one, as we won't exactly know which chunks have been generated and which not. Anyway, with the natural balances drastically shifted, we will just have to wait and see how the new enemy and pollution situation will settle. First, it's time for some much needed base optimizations. After all those artillery revenge attacks, we outlined the wall with 2 raiders per chunk to drastically up the scan rate of nearby chunks, so all these old biter traces will disappear soonish. Raiders work together intelligently, so none of them will be scanning the same chunk at the same time. Now 420 raiders are patrolling and updating our full border area. Nice! Just in case we will need lots of landfill later, we are quickly setting up 2 dedicated landfill producers at both of the very small southern stone mines. Still, eventually it should net us about 100,000 landfill from these 2 small mines alone. Next, we're gonna optimize our science situation. We've been running an arbitrary 84 science per minute because that randomly happens to be the speed of the slowest assemblers. And we don't even know if we are truly producing everything in sufficient quantities to supply everything. So it's time to make the base run smoothly. We're going to set ourselves a goal of 100 signs per minute and make it reliably produce all the ingredients to do so indefinitely, while additionally being able to sustain artillery shell production and small quantities of base building materials. Let's begin. The biggest deficit by far is the rocket launchers not keeping up, so as a quick fix we doubled the rocket fuel production and added a dedicated speed module assembly area for the rocket control units. We will check back if it's sufficient later after optimizing the other science pack production first. Let's start with the basics. We are just using speed beacon pairs of science assemblers for every color, because we can't afford a full set of expensive modules yet. But because the different science specs produce at different speeds, that means our production ratio for the 6 different flavors of science is off, as the correct ratio of assemblers is this. And we are using this. That means currently yellow and purple signs are the slowest at 84 signs per minute, while red and grey are too fast and are already exceeding 100 signs per minute. Well, we still don't have that full set of expensive modules, so instead we just play around with different combinations and levels of speed and productivity modules for each pair of assemblers, until we've boosted or reduced each of the 6 colors to be able to produce slightly more than 100 signs per minute. Meanwhile, our uranium reserves are up to 60k dark green rocks with 40,000 nuclear fuel cells in stock, and our Covarex enrichment has increased our shiny green rock total to 12,000. Indeed, worrying about power and power plant fuel are a thing of the past. Next, we carefully checked for if we are producing every single science pack component at adequate speeds. I won't bore you too much with the details, but it turns out that we are, even for rocket launches and space science, except for the rocket control unit. To achieve 100 science per minute, we need to launch one rocket every 10 minutes, and a single rocket launch requires 720 rocket control units. That means we need to produce 72 of them per minute, but our current setup only produces 54 per minute. So let's work out why. The belt of RCU ingredients is backed up and all assemblers are working, which means we simply don't have enough assemblers. So we overcompensate a little to make up for the recent deficit and place 50% more RCU assemblers. This should push our RCU production from 54 to 81 per minute. Then we recheck the RCU components, and while we also request speed modules from the manufacturing hub, once we will start making the expensive tier 3 modules, we can't rely on a steady supply of speed modules to the RCUs anymore. So we add one more speed module assembler to make the RCU area independent from the manufacturing hub's supply. And when we check the graph, we can indeed see the RCU production is above 80 per minute now. Half an hour later, we can see we're launching one rocket every 9 minutes now. And we have a nice 100 science per minute graph. So theoretically we should now finally have a true 100 science per minute base. In the meantime, we did find another teeny tiny lakeside stone patch, which will also turn into landfill. And we will definitely lose the game if we don't mine this random 5k copper and bring it over to the base with logistic bots. Now that some time has passed, we can check the effects of our artillery barrage on the pollution absorption. Well, the amount of pollution absorbed by enemy nests has gone down drastically, while the amount of pollution absorbed by terrain has gone up quite a bit, as there is now a lot of additional clear terrain. A lot of pollution is being absorbed by forests, which is good, but unfortunately most pollution is absorbed by the act of damaging trees. Not only does this slowly reduce the natural, sustainable form of pollution absorption by the forests, but also the trees can handle taking damage only a handful of times before they cease to do so, which ultimately makes the process of damaging trees a strong but unsustainable way to get rid of pollution. To summarize, it helps for a while, but then all goes to hell. This is actually a serious problem which threatens the conclusion of this playthrough. If we count up all produced pollution, that currently equates to 8500 per minute. When we look at all pollution absorbed, we can only really count the sustainable sources of pollution absorption. The biter and spitter nests are ultimately planned for eviction, and the process of damaging trees, which currently accounts for over half of our pollution clearing, cannot be depended on forever. And eventually all that unsustainable pollution absorption will fully migrate to tiles. This is a problem, because the amount of pollution absorbed by tiles simply equates directly to the physical size of the pollution cloud on the map, which in our case would mean the pollution cloud would grow to at least 7 times its current size after all is said and done and the biters are fully gone. This of course would mean the pollution cloud would spread off the map massively on all sides, generating new terrain and new biters in the process, which again would mean back to square one. So there is only one way to solve this problem. I was afraid it would have to come to this. We will have to design a base like no man has seen before. A base not optimized for maximum speed and productivity bonus, but a base designed purely around purity of air. In fact, I did a quick test in the map editor where I removed all the biters but kept all the forest, and within 2 or 3 hours the pollution already threatens to spread off the edge of the visible map. That means we cannot even attempt to eliminate all biters from this planet yet, as we are currently dependent on them to absorb any pollution that reaches them, before it has a chance to spread off the map and generate new terrain. So, after previously plodding down the path of productivity and pollution, we need to make a drastic change to save the climate on this planet. We will have to go full Greta Greenpeace before we can actually declare true peace. Not only with our glowy green power, but we will have to forego the usual strategies of optimized speed and productivity builds in order to drastically reduce our pollution output. Every single machine in our factory will have to be examined and optimized to minimize pollution output, while somehow still sustaining a respectable rate of production. Only after we reach the true green wisdom and all our pollution is absorbed in an eternally sustainable way by the planet, only then we can show our true colors to the rest of the natives. And trust me, our true colors are anything but green.